Hello. We are reading Goosebumps. This is part 4. Why I Am Afraid of Bees. Here's the title. I know I don't have the reverse screen, but here's the book. Now we have Gary, who has been bullied, and he wants to change bodies. Well, it's kind of like the fly, in that he becomes a bee. And right now, he is in Mr. Andretti's beehive. So let's find out what happens. We are on chapter 15. Oh, goodness, there's that big sticky note. I shrank back as one of them pointed his stinger at me. He was getting ready to kill me, and I didn't even know what I had done. Oh, it's another bee that's trying to kill him. I screamed and whirled around as fast as my 6 legs would carry me. I darted back down the narrow passageway and turned another corner. Oh, I bumped hard into another bee. Luckily, he was hurrying off somewhere and barely seemed to notice me. I gasped with relief, and then an idea came to me. Where was that bee going in such a hurry? Was he taking something somewhere? Could he be going to an area I hadn't searched yet? I decided to follow him and find out. I need to learn everything I could about the hive. Maybe, just maybe, it would help me escape. I hurried after the bee. I thought I'd find him quickly, but he was already long gone. I searched in and out among the different honeycombs, but I couldn't find him anywhere. After a while, I gave up. Way to go, Lutz the Klutz, I scolded myself. I felt worse than ever. I shot out my tongue and slurped up a big helping of honey to keep myself going. Then I began my endless search again. Whoa! I stopped when I reached an area that looked familiar. I was pretty sure it was the place where Andretti had dropped me when he first put me into the hive. All at once, a large group of angrily buzzing bees crowded against me. Hey! I protested as they shoved me forward. They replied with a sharp, rising buzz. Where are we? What were they doing? Were they attacking me? Were they all going to sting me at once? They had me surrounded. I couldn't run away. But how could I possibly fight off all these bees? I was doomed. I realized. Finished. Sighing in defeat, I closed my eyes and started to shake, and waited for them to swarm over me. Oh, what was going to happen? Now we're on chapter 16. For those just joining, we are reading Why I'm Afraid of Bees. All right. I waited to be crushed and waited some more. When I opened my eyes, the angry bees had moved to the side of the hive. They weren't paying attention to me. I saw a single bee standing in the center of the hive floor. He was performing a kind of jumping, twisting, rhythmic dance. How weird, I thought. The other bees were watching intently, as if this were the most interesting thing in the world. Those bees didn't care about me, I told myself. They were trying to get me out of the way so this bee could do his dance. I realized I had wasted a lot of time. I had to keep searching for an escape route. I tried to push myself away from the group of bees, but the high floor had become too crowded to move. The bee danced faster and faster. He moved his body toward the right. All the other bees stared intently at him. What was going on? At that moment, something from the old big book of bees came back to me. I remembered that bees send out scouts to find their food. Then the scouts dance. to tell the other bees where to go get it. If the scout was reporting where to get food, it meant he'd just been out of the hive. That meant there had to be a way out of this place. I was so excited. I almost started dancing, but I didn't have a chance because suddenly all the bees in the hive rose up like a dark cloud. I spread my wings and flew up with them. As I followed, the bees formed a single orderly line and shot out through a tiny hole in the far upper corner of the hive. I buzzed around until I found the end of the line. Then I got ready to escape. Would I make it? The very last bee in line shot out of the tiny hole into an open space. For a few seconds I watched the other bees floating away, busily hunting for nectar and pollen. I knew I looked just like them. The difference was that they would willingly return to Andretti's hive. But I never, ever would. At least not if I could help it. I'm out, I cried joyfully in my tiny voice. I'm out. I'm free. Dazzled by the sudden bright light of the outer world, I flew around and around in the beekeeping area. Then I headed for the hole I'd seen in the screen when I was still in my body. I knew it was on the wall that faced my family's yard, but when I flew over it, I stopped and gasped in disappointment. The hole had been patched up. Mr. Andretti had fixed it. Oh no, I wailed. I can't be trapped. I can't be. My heart started thumping crazily. My whole body was vibrating. I forced myself to calm down and look around. None of the other bees were in the screened-in area anymore. They had already gone outside to collect pollen, and that meant there had to be another way out. I wasn't thinking clearly because I was exhausted, worn out from all my flying around. I sat down on top of the hive to rest. At that instant, the door between the beekeeping area and the garage opened. "Good morning, my little bee friend," Mr. Andretti's voice boomed. "What are you doing, lying around on top of the hive? Why aren't you busy inside making me some honey? Are you sick? You know we can't have any sick bees around here." As I gazed up weakly, Mr. Andretti moved closer. His large, dark shadow fell over me. I tried to curl up into a ball and disappear, but it was no use. His large fingers were stretching right toward me. I yelled in terror, but of course he couldn't hear me. What is he doing? What he's going to do to me? I asked myself. What does he do with sick bees? Chapter 17. For those of you interested who love Goosebumps, I have a YA horror mystery adventure about vampires. And you also have a little bit of teen romance. Here's my most recent review on Amazon. I saw the author post this on TikTok, so I decided to read it. If your child is into horror, then this is definitely a good book. It's a step below Goosebumps and Fear Street, so it's a good introduction to those series. Language is simple and easy to follow. It's not very complicated. He uses short sentences to help ease the reading. I really believe kids will enjoy it. That is just amazing. So if you like vampires, how about the book Vampire Juice? My link is in the bio. All right, let's continue. Chapter 17. What does he do with sick bees? I wondered, again quivering in terror. He probably throws them in the garbage, I thought, or even worse, his friends. He feeds them to his pet bird or frog. Despite my weariness, I knew I couldn't wait around to find out. I had to get out of there, just as Mr. Andretti's fingers were about to fold around me. I shot up into the air and buzzed around his head. At the same instant, I saw some other bees flying in through a tiny hole in the screen. It was in the corner near the ceiling. I buzzed Mr. Andretti's face one more time. Then I raced towards the hole as I tried to squeeze myself out the exit hole. I crashed right into another bee who was flying in. He glared at me and gave me an angry buzz. Frightened, I backed off and clung to the screen. I had to wait for a long line of bees to come back inside. It seemed to take them forever. When I was finally sure the last bee had come in, I leaped forward and shot out of the hole. I was out in the open sky. This time I really am free, I screamed in celebration, forgetting my weariness. And Andretti's never going to catch this bee again. I landed on a leaf and let the morning sun warm my back and wings. It was a beautiful day for finding somebody who could help me get back into my human body. Like a rocket, I shot straight up into the air and gazed around. I recognized the familiar creak of my father opening the back door of my house. Panting hard, I raced forward. My father called, "Goodbye, hon. Tell the kids I'll see them tonight," over his shoulder, and let go of the door. I darted into the house. The door slammed hard. Another near miss. I hummed with happiness. It felt so good to be back in my own house and out of the dark, sticky hive. I landed on the counter and gazed around at the old, familiar walls. Why hadn't I ever realized how nice my house was before? Step, step, step. Someone was coming into the kitchen. I flew up onto the windowsill for a better look. Chrissy. Maybe I could get her to listen to me. Ooh, let's see. Chrissy, I buzzed. Over here by the window. It's me, Gary. To my delight, she turned and stared in my direction. Yes, I cried excitedly. Yes, it's me. It's me. Oh, terrific, Chrissy groaned. One of Andretti's dumb bees got in here again. Okay, so it wasn't exactly the reaction I'd been hoping for. But she still noticed me. Maybe I thought if I flew right onto her shoulder and spoke into her ear, she'd be able to understand me. My heart vibrating my entire body, I lifted myself up off the windowsill and soared toward my sister. Chrissy, I buzzed as I approached her shoulder. You have to listen to me. Aye! Chrissy screeched so loud I was afraid the glass in the windows would shatter. Get away from me, Bee! She started thrashing her hands in the air, trying to bat me away. Ow! I cried out as she slapped me. Stung with pain, I lost control and landed with a thud on the tiled countertop. I raised my eyes in time to see Chrissy grab a fly swatter from out of the broom closet. No, Chrissy. No, I screamed. Not that. You don't want to do that to your own brother. My sister lifted up the fly swatter and thwacked it down right next to me. I could feel the rush air from it, and I felt the entire counter shake. I screamed and quickly rolled to one side. Chrissy, I knew, was a menace with a fly swatter. She was the champion in our family. She never missed. The eyes on top of my head spun in terror, and in a gray blur I could see the shape of the fly swatter rising up to slap me again and again. Oh my goodness. What is she going to do? Just thought I'd mention, if you like YA horror like Goosebumps, mystery adventures, a splash of teen romance, voila, Vampire Juice. My link is in the bio. Chapter 18. Stop, Chrissy, I screamed. Stop. You're squashing me. With a strangled gasp, I toppled off the counter. I hit the floor hard and struggled dizzily to my feet. Now I started to get angry. Why did Chrissy have to be so bloodthirsty? Couldn't she just open the window and shoo me out? Buzzing weakly, I floated up off the floor, Regaining my strength, I began darting wildly around the room, crashing into the walls and cupboards to show Chrissy how upset I was. Then I shot out of the kitchen. In a rage, I headed up the stairs to my room. If my sister wouldn't help me, I'd get someone else to help me, namely the new Gary. The morning sun was high in the sky, but Gary was still sound asleep in my bed. Seeing him lying there so peacefully, so completely at home, made me even angrier. "Wake up, you slug," I buzzed at him. He didn't move. His mouth hung open as he slept, making him look like a real jerk. Yuck! What a creep! I was sure my mouth never hung open when I slept. I decided to take action. I landed on Gary's head and started walking around on his face. I was sure my little insect legs would tickle him and wake him up. Nothing. He didn't move. Even when I stuck a leg up his nose, Gary slept without stirring. Why is he so wrecked, I wondered. Has he been wearing out my body? Furious, I ran across Gary's face and climbed down through his hair. Then I crawled onto his ear. "Buzz!" I shouted as loudly as I could. "Buzz, buzz, buzz, buzz!" Incredible as it seems, the new Gary didn't even budge. Just my luck. Dirk Davis was turning out to be the world's soundest sleeper. I sighed and gave up. I crawled off Gary's ear and flew around my old room, gazing down at my bed, my dresser, and my computer. "My computer," I cried excitedly. "Maybe I can put a message on the screen. Maybe I can tell my parents what has happened to me." I swooped down to my computer, buzzing eagerly. Yes, the computer had been left on. What luck! I knew I wasn't heavy enough to push the power button. Would I be strong enough to type? A blinking cursor on a blank screen greeted me. My heart pounding, I lowered myself to the keyboard and started hopping around on the letters. Yes, I was heavy enough to make the keys go up and down. I paused, resting on the RXV key. What should I type? What message should I leave? What? As I frantically thought, I heard Gary stir behind me on the bed. He let out a groan. He was waking up. "Quick," I told myself. "Type something. Type anything. He'll see it as soon as he gets out of bed." I hopped over to the letters and began to jump up and down, spelling out my desperate message. It was hard work. My bee eyes weren't made for reading letters, and I kept leaping up and falling in the cracks between the keys. After 8 or 9 jumps, I was gasping for air, but I finished my message just as Gary sat up in bed and stretched. Floating up in front of the screen, I struggled to read what I had typed. "I'm not a bee. I'm Gary." I could barely buzz. Would they understand? Would they read the message and see me standing on top of the screen and understand? Gary would understand. I knew he would. Dirk Davis would figure it out. I climbed wearily to the top of the screen and watched him climb out of bed. "Here he comes," I saw eagerly. He brushed his hair out of his eyes. He yawned. He stretched again. "Over there," I urged. "Dirk, please. Check out the computer. Dirk, over here." He picked up a crumpled pair of jeans off the floor and pulled them on. power button. Then he turned and made his way out of the room. Stunned, I toppled off the screen, landing hard on the desk beside the keyboard. All that work for nothing. What was Gary's problem anyway? Doesn't he know how to read? I've got to talk to him, I told myself, pulling myself together. I've got to communicate with him somehow. But how? How is he going to communicate? I lifted my wings and flowed up after him. I followed him through the kitchen and then slipped through the back door with him. As he strode across the grass, I started buzzing around his head, but he didn't pay any attention to me. He crossed the yard, opened our garage door, then he went inside and brought out my old skateboard. I hadn't used that skateboard in at least 2 years. My uncle had given it to me for my 10th birthday, and I almost broke my leg trying to ride it. After that, I put it away and refused to touch it again. "Don't get on that thing," I yelled at Gary. "It's dangerous. You might hurt my body, and I want it back in one piece." Of course, Gary didn't even notice me. Instead, he carried the skateboard out in front of the house and put it down on the ground. Short while later, Caitlin and Judy walked up the sidewalk. I waited for them to start giggling and making fun of the new me. "Hi, Gary," Caitlin said. She brushed some curly hair off her forehead and smiled. "Are we late for our skateboarding lesson?" Gary flashed her a big smile. "No way, Caitlin," he answered in my voice. "Want to head over to the playground like we did yesterday?" Ooh. I couldn't believe my ears. Skateboarding lesson. Head over to the playground like we did yesterday. What was going on around here? "Hope you don't mind Gary," Judy said. "We told some of the other kids, like Gail and Louie, how good you are. They all said they can't wait to take a lesson from you, too. Is that okay? Because if it isn't, we can call them in." "No problem, Jude," Gary broke in. "Let's get going, okay?" The new me hopped onto his skateboard and smoothly rolled his way down the sidewalk. Judy and Caitlin hurried after him. For a second, I was too shocked to move, but then I decided to follow them. As I swooped after them, I kept muttering to myself, "I can't believe it. Les the Klutz is giving skateboard lessons at the playground. Everybody's waiting for him to show up. What is going on?" A few minutes later, the four of us had reached the playground. Sure enough, a whole gang of kids was waiting there for Gary. He put down his skateboard and started giving everybody pointers on boarding, as he called it. I buzzed over to him and started shouting in his ear again. "Dirk," I shouted. "Dirk Davis, me, the real Gary Lutz." Very casually, he swatted me away. I tried to speak to him again. This time, he swatted me really hard, sending me spinning to the ground. Trying to shake off the pain, I gave up. Dirk isn't going to help me, I realized. Miss Carmen is my only hope. After all, she was the one with all the equipment. She was the only person who could reverse what she had done. I flew onto a tree and tried to figure out which way to fly. When you're an insect, everything looks different to you. Things that seem small to a person appear huge to a bee. So I wanted to be sure I didn't get myself mixed up and fly off in the wrong direction. Standing on a big leaf, I gazed up and down the block until I was sure I knew which way to go. As I got ready to take off, a large shadow suddenly loomed over my head. At first, I thought it was a small bird, but then I realized it was a dragonfly. Stay calm, I told myself. A dragonfly is an insect, isn't it? And insects don't eat other, right? I guess no one had told the dragonfly. Before I could move, it zoomed down and wrapped its teeth around my middle and bit me in two. Oh no. What is going to happen? Bit him in two? Oh, we're on chapter 20. Oh my goodness. What is going to happen? We only have time for one more chapter. And I just thought I'd mention, if you like YA horror books, my book, Vampire Juice, the link is in the bio, and I thought I'd read my latest review. I saw the author post this on TikTok, so I decided to read it. If your child is into horror, then this is definitely a good book. It is a step below Goosebumps and Fear Street, so it's a good introduction into those series. Language is simple and easy to follow. It is not very complicated. He uses short sentences to help ease the reading. I really believe kids will enjoy it. Isn't that wonderful? I really love that review. All right, chapter 20. Oh, by the way, my link is in the bio. Okay, so the book is Vampire Juice. Cool title, huh? All right, chapter 20. I uttered the last gasp and waited for everything to go dark. It took me a few seconds to realize that the dragonfly had turned and buzzed off in the other direction. My imagination was running away with me. That's what always happens when I got overtired. I took a deep breath and, grateful to still be in one piece, I decided I had to use my remaining strength to get to Miss Carmen at the person-to-person vacation office. I rose up into the air and looked both ways for oncoming dragonfly traffic, then fluttered away. After a long, tiring trip, I flowed past a street sign that told me I had made it to the right block, Roach Street. I buzzed along the sidewalk until I came to the person-to-person building. Then I sat down on the stoop and tried to figure out how I was going to get inside. How is he going to get inside? Oh my goodness. Luckily, as I rested on the warm cement, I saw a mailman marching up the street, stopping at each house along the route. My dad always called it route. Quickly, I flew over to the person-to-person entrance and checked it out. Just as I had hoped, there was a small slot in the middle of the floor. I buzzed over to the doorknob and waited for my chance. Slowly, the mailman trudged up to the building. "Hurry up," I screamed at him. "Do you think I have all day here?" Of course, he couldn't hear me. He fumbled around in his bag and pulled out a bundle of letters. Then slowly he reached out and pushed open the mail slot. Before the mailman had a chance to react, I swooped down in front of his nose and buzzed right through the mail slot. As I zipped along, I heard him gasp, and I knew he had seen me. But for once, luck was with me. I moved so quickly, there hadn't been any time for the mailman to try to swat me. My luck held when I flew up the stairs. I had just reached the top when the door to the person-to-person vacations opened and a girl about my age came out. She had long curly red hair and had a serious, thoughtful expression on her face. Was she thinking of trading places with someone? I wonder. "Go home," I shouted at her, "and don't come back. Stay away from this place. Just look what happened to me." Even though I was screaming, the girl didn't even turn her head. But she left the door open just long enough for me to buzz into the person-to-person office. I flew across the waiting room and saw Miss Carmen sitting in the same chair she had been in when I first met her. I shot right toward her and smacked into something hard. Pain roared. What'd she smack into? Do you remember? Those of you who've been following along, do you remember what she smacked into? Uh, I dropped to the floor, dizzy and confused. As my head began to clear, I remembered the glass wall separating Miss Carmen from the waiting area. Like some kind of brainless June bug, I had crashed right into it. I shook myself to clear my mind. Miss Carmen, I yelled. Miss Carmen, it's me, Gary Lutz. Look what happened. Can you help me? Can you? Okay, so I am going to stop for today. Oh my goodness. We only have... Oh no. A7. We only have... Ooh. About 20 pages left. So I'll be reading this next time. On Friday, now I don't get off till 10. So on Friday at 10:30, no, I'll make that 11 just to be safe. I will finish up Why I Am Afraid of Bees. Oh, and I will post the full version of these videos on YouTube on my channel. Just type in my name and it should show up. I'd like to thank everyone. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for watching.
What the fuck?
Huh.